Welcome to Telltale Books. I'm going to finally continue with my Brian Aldiss series, exploring all the works that I can get my hands on by Brian W. Aldiss, the really excellent British author. It's been quite some time, but I did his first two published works. So this one is going to be his third published work, and it is titled The Brightfount Diaries. Now, this book was first published by Faber and Faber in England in 1955, and it is only his third published work, but it is a whole novel. It's a short novel, but it is a whole novel. In the Brightfount Diaries, Aldiss was drawing upon his own personal experiences at that time of being a bookseller in a bookstore. He published originally this as a series of diary excerpts that were published in a trade magazine called The Bookseller. And then after he did a few of them, he gathered them together into the novel. So the whole novel is it covers about I think a 6 or 8 month period in the character's life, character being named Peter. And it's his diary entries for this period of time, starting from when he leaves one bookseller and takes up a job at Brightfount, which is a bookstore, and then goes all the way through to Christmas time. And it is a day-to-day account. Some days not much happens, and he says so. Today just worked, or not much happened. But most days there are interesting characters that come into the store, or interesting tidbits about publishers that they're buying books from, or they also deal in used books, so people can bring their books to them and sell them, and also does get into the narrator, Peter, his personal life. And he's a young guy and single, so there's quite a bit of time spent about the various women that he dates or asks out or has an interest in, and his personal relations. And it also talks, obviously, on Sundays at least, he doesn't work. So on those days, it's about his aunt and his uncle who he was staying with. He now has his own place, but he still visits his aunt and uncle at regular times. And a couple times he does take a train back to his original home to visit his parents. And before you think this sounds like it would be really dull, understand that Aldiss writes this with not really satire, not really trying to be a side-splitting comedy, but very lighthearted, and does crack jokes all the way through. So it's a very light, very enjoyable read that takes you into this guy's life and gives you kind of a humorous look at the book selling business. So this is definitely not the sort of book that I would normally go for. But this being Brian Aldiss and wanting to be truly complete, and I was able to get a hold of a copy fairly easily, though it's not currently in print, so you can't go to Barnes & Noble and buy this book. I wanted to read it for that reason, and so I did, and I was pleasantly surprised how much I enjoyed this book. It sounds like day by day, blow by blow account of an ordinary person's life is going to be fairly dull. I know mine would be, but this book actually was pretty engaging. It was funny enough to keep you chuckling through the whole thing, and interesting in some of the characters and some of the situations that came up, and I found myself liking the book. So I would recommend this to anybody. First of all, if you want to be a Brian Aldiss completist like I'm trying to be, then you want to read this book. If you want to try something outside of what I normally talk about on this channel, the goal of Telltale is not to be a science fiction channel. I'm very heavy with it because that's mostly what I've read and mostly what I know and mostly what I love. But we want to go beyond that and get into other areas of literature. And so I have been trying to push myself out of my comfort zone and read stuff like this. And this was a very good way to do it, because it's an author that I know I love his science fiction work for. But here is one of his non-science fiction works. And this being a very early work, it really shows you just how great a writer Brian Aldiss was, because most of these other authors that I've been reviewing, I'm still with their early work, and most of what I'm talking about is how there's all these missed opportunities or cardboard characters, or just isn't very good writing. I mean, even with, and granted, she's just not even quite a teenager, but Charlotte Bronte, the stuff I've been reading is just bad writing. But this is a case where pretty much out of the gate, the surviving first works by Aldiss are very well done, and this is a very readable novel. I don't know enough about British book selling to know how much of this would really feel dated. I mean, obviously some things, they don't have computers and don't have online ordering, so that has changed. But I don't know how much else has really changed about the British publishing industry to say whether or not this book has held up well over time. But it's held up as well as any other book that's set in a different era has held up. And this is a very human story. It's not about technology. So people haven't changed that much since the 1950s. So not a top tale, not quite that spectacular, but definitely a good story, and one that I gotta say, it's recommended. I gotta say it's good, and I think you should give it a try if you like Brian Aldiss, or if you just want something outside science fiction, something more down to earth. This is an excellent book. Something on the light side. This is an excellent book. Just a little difficult to find it. You can, I did see online first editions available, and not at huge prices. Not for something that old by a well-known science fiction author. In a first edition, a lot of times you see prices in the hundreds. It wasn't like that, but the copy I got is this one. It was part of the Friday project that a group of people got together and started publishing these, and they tried to publish everything by Brian Aldiss. I don't think they ever completed it. This was published in 2013. It's paperback. My complete stories of Brian Aldiss 1950s is part of this Friday Project group. And nice little trade paperback books. And definitely, like I say, not exactly easy to find them, but they're out there. You can get a hold of copies of this. So that is number 3 for Brian Aldiss, finally. And of those of you who really love Aldiss and were waiting, if you were waiting for this, I apologize that it took me so long to get to it. I've I started doing these author surveys originally with H.G. Wells. Then I decided I wanted to get into Philip K. Dick, and that's when I decided I wanted to do a video for every story I read for Philip K. Dick. And I thought about whether or not I should just go through one author, start to finish, before I get into any other authors. And I thought, no, that's monotonous. Plus, there's so much else I want to explore, so much else that other people might want to hear about. And also, I would go through and burn through everything by one author in a relatively quick time, and then have nothing else by that author that I could look forward to. So I decided I wanted to do lots of authors simultaneously, and that's what I've been doing. So I've had Brian Aldiss kind of on the back burner for a while, and finally decided I need to get back to Aldiss because it's been so long since I did one, and decided to do the Brightfount Diaries. So I'll try to make the next one a little sooner. I think it's been more than 6 months since I did the last Aldiss. The next one, which was published in 1955 in New Worlds magazine, is titled Outside, Short Science Fiction Stories. So we get back to don't want to say what Aldiss is best at, but what he's best known for. And so I'll be back doing that. I hope you'll join me too. Like us and subscribe to us, and leave comments. Have you read the Brightfount Diaries? What do you think of it? What do you think about science fiction authors who try to write outside the genre? Should an author just write what they want to write, or should they stick with what publishers can best and most easily market once they become known for something? Tell me what you think. And I'll see you in the next video.